Ihsan al-Faqih wrote, in the 1980s, Brazil experienced a severe economic crisis. It went to borrow from the IMF, believing it was the solution to its economic crisis. And of course, the unfair conditions are applied, which led to layoffs of millions of workers and reduce of wages of other workers and the abolition of subsidy. The Brazilian economy collapsed and other countries interfere into Brazil's domestic policies. The World Bank has forced the state to add to its constitution a set of articles that have ignited domestic political unrest. Despite Brazil's acceptance of all terms and conditions, the crisis worsened more and more, and only 1% of Brazilians get half of the national income. Millions of citizens fell below the poverty line, which led Brazil's leaders to borrow from the fund again, $5 billion, believing it is the way out of the crisis. Things got deteriorated further, and Brazil has become the most corrupt. It expelled immigrants out of the country, became the largest in crime rate, drug abuse, and debt in the world. Public debt rose to 9 times in 12 years. The IMF even threatened to declare Brazil bankrupt if it did not pay interest on the loans and refused to lend them any amount at the end of 2002. The currency collapsed. The dollar reached 11,000 cruzeiro, and the country was dying in the full sense of the word. Until 2003, Brazilians elected the new president, who was born poor, suffered from hunger and the injustice of arrest. He even worked as a shoe shiner. Everyone became afraid of him when he became president at first. The businessmen said, "This man will take our money and nationalize our businesses." And the poor said, "This would be stealing to make up for the deprivation." But he didn't. 5% of the GNP. It is paid directly to poor families. This is replacing support in kind with support in cash. This support was paid to 11 million families, made up of 64 million Brazilians. This support was $735. Of course, the question is, how did he get that while Brazil was bankrupt? He raised taxes on all, excluding beneficiaries of subsidies and government interventions. It means raising tax on businessmen and rich people. The other question is also, how did the businessmen just simply agree to this? They were happy to have been compensated with great facilities in investment and good mechanisms of operation to operate their businesses, as well as granting land allocations to them for free and ease business licensing. He also gave out soft loans, helped them open new markets. Income of the poor increased, and they bought products of the businessmen and the rich, so they didn't feel it levy. But the paid tax for facilities, they benefit from more. After 3 years, only 2 million Brazilians immigrants returned and came with 1.5 million foreigners to invest and live in Brazil. In 4 years, he paid all the debt of the IMF. Indeed, the IMF borrowed from Brazil 14 billion US dollars during the global crisis in 2008. That is only 5 years after the new president started ruling. It is the same fund that wanted to declare Brazil bankrupt in 2002 and refused to lend to pay interest and on loans. Thanks to the new president's focus on 4 things: industry, manufacturing, mining, agriculture, and of course, education. Brazil is making aircrafts. After the end of the 2 tenures, 8 years, of the presidential in 2011, and after all these real achievements, the people asked him to continue and amend the constitution. He strongly rejected that. Brazil launched the first nuclear submarine. Only 5 countries in the world manufacture nuclear submarines: America, Russia, China, Britain, and France. The first submarine was in cooperation with France, but will launch the second submarine in 2020 and the third in 2022 with pure Brazilian industry. Rising from underdevelopment is not impossible. It is will and management. It could happen in only a few years, and the method is known and defined: industry, agriculture, attention to poor productive groups, and the quality of education. This is what Germany and Japan did in the 1960s, and this is what East Asian countries did in the 1980s, and this is what India did in the 1990s, and this is what Turkey and Brazil did in 2003. This is what Ethiopia and Rwanda have been doing for years now. Here are some observations. Border closure is of tremendous benefit to the country by protecting it from hazardous imported items, proliferation of weapons, narcotics, as well as local production patronization. But this is not without pains. National Orientation Agency (NOA), National Directorate Employment (NDE), and Small and Medium Enterprises Development (SMEDA), if get the desired attention from government and well funded, could do a lot to compensate those who made loss due to border closure. Federal government interventions, especially through CBN, are no less in importance, with NOA orienting people on how to tap benefits from NDE, SMEDAN, CBN, etc., economy would be improved and security assured. Here are some recommendations. Forwarding honest and professional advice to President's Economic Advice Committee, PEC, especially getting rid of any riba contaminated ventures. Education needs to be seriously funded. Hopefully, no less than 20% of the annual budget, as well as get curriculum enriched with vocational skills and crafts. Legislators and heads of ministries and MDAs are invited to observe the fear of Allah and put the interests of Nigeria in heart while budget defense, and ensure social care sector is well funded in addition to education. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enhance our economy and keep us together. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.